So, here's the question. How does the world power structure fundamentally change without some kind of catastrophic war? Today, we're going to delve into a really challenging perspective on the U.S. global role. It's based on the analysis of Mr. George Yeo, who you might know as the former Minister for Foreign Affairs of Singapore. And our mission really is to dissect his core argument, which is that if the U.S. keeps resisting this naturally emerging multipolar world, well, it won't secure dominance. It'll just lead to self-exhaustion and ultimately maybe decline. Understanding this is pretty crucial, right? Is the friction we see now just temporary, or is it systemic? If you find these kinds of discussions essential for navigating, the complexities of the global landscape, make sure you subscribe right now to Geopolitics Gazette. Don't miss out.
Okay, so the basic premise Yeo lays out is that, look, multipolarity isn't some future possibility. It's here. It's the present reality. Global power is diffusing. The world just isn't only about U.S. primacy anymore. You've got economies like China, India, the ASEAN bloc. They're growing fast. So this multipolar world, he says, it's already born, and it's picking up speed.
Yeah, and there's an interesting contrast he draws. Historically speaking, China, because of its geography, always had neighbors, rivals. It was kind of comfortable with multipolarity. But the U.S., having enjoyed decades of pretty undisputed primacy, Yeo suggests it's now actively fighting this fragmentation.
Right. And fighting it, Yeo argues, is basically the road to exhaustion. He believes the best strategic path, the optimal outcome, is for the U.S. to accept it, even help crystallize this new structure. If it does that, the U.S. naturally settles into this role of primus inter pares, first among equals. And that status, he points out, isn't just secured by military power, it's underpinned by these huge institutional advantages already in place. Things like the global dominance of English, accepted legal standards, financial systems, even the conceptual categories we use for global trade and academia.
Okay, but hold on. If the U.S. deliberately steps back from, maintaining the current order to become just first among equals, doesn't that risk creating power vacuums? Yeo's analysis sounds like adaptation is straightforward, but global stability is kind of relied on this Pax Americana.
It definitely creates risk, yeah. That's why the adaptation has to be strategic, not just a retreat. But the point is, the current cost of maintaining Pax Americana, that whole system of peace and stability enforced mainly by U.S. military might, it's becoming, financially and structurally unsustainable.
Let's unpack that cost a bit. We're talking, 800 U.S. military bases around the world?
Yeah.
That's a truly staggering forward deployment.
Exactly. And to give you a really concrete sense of the expense, Yeo shares this memorable little anecdote. He mentions a Singaporean supplier who had the job of provisioning a U.S. aircraft carrier, and this supplier calculated loading 2 million eggs for just one rotation at sea.
2 million eggs. Wow.
Yeah, break it down. Maybe 5,000 sailors needing, say, 4 eggs a day for 100 days at sea. See how it adds up. The logistical effort is just immense. Now, multiply that kind of thing across every base, every ship, every operation. You start to get a picture of the sheer macroeconomic strain involved.
And that strain falls directly on the U.S. taxpayer, of course. But as Yeo points out, it's not just them. The rest of the world also pays, indirectly, because of the U.S. dollar's special status, which essentially helps finance this huge global military footprint.
That's it.
Okay, before we get deeper into the dollar and its financial implications, just a reminder, if you want to stay informed on this massive shift in the global power structure, please subscribe to Geopolitics Gazette. It's really vital context.
So yeah, this brings us neatly to what Valéry Giscard d'Estaing famously termed the dollar's exorbitant privilege. Because it's the world's reserve currency, the U.S. can, in effect, print money to help cover its debts and military costs. This acts like an indirect tax on the rest of the world, It lets the U.S. export some of its inflation and debt.
But Yeo really highlights a tipping point here. He says when that international financial system gets actively weaponized, like freezing reserves, cutting off access, countries immediately start looking for alternatives. And we're seeing that now. China, Russia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, they're exploring options to bypass the dollar system altogether, paving their own pathways.
Right. And for anyone watching the financial markets, Yeo points to a critical warning sign. Right now, typically when there's a global crisis, the dollar goes up as investors flee to safety. Right.
Yeah, safe haven asset.
Exactly. The real signal that its privilege is ending, Yeo warns, will be the day a major global crisis hits and the dollar doesn't rise, or maybe even falls. That would signal a true loss of confidence.
So wrapping this up, what does this huge structural shift potentially mean for the future of the sort of American idea itself? Yeo really synthesizes the challenge. The U.S. has to adapt its liberal concept of order, adapt it to, as he puts it, encompass people who are not Western in their civilizational history.
Yeah.
He even cites this striking demographic projection that by 2050, maybe 1 in every 2 babies born globally could be Muslim. That kind of change demands some profound ideological rethinking.
Definitely. And this shift, this transition from a purely Western-centric system to something more globally representative, it leads to this final, really provocative question Yeo poses. He asks, if someday humanity goes to outer space, colonizes Mars or whatever, whose operating system will we use? American, Chinese, something else. And Yeo suggests it could still be the U.S. system, not because of its past dominance, but because it's founded on universal law and diversity. But, and this is the key, that only happens if the U.S. embraces a fresh, more inclusive interpretation of its own core ideas. Starting now.
Right. And that friction, that difficulty of adaptation, is precisely what we seem to be witnessing play out across the globe today. So if this analysis of Mr. Yeo's perspective resonated with you, if it expanded your understanding of the geopolitical landscape, please subscribe to Geopolitics Gazette right now and let us know your thoughts. Write your point of view in the comments section below. Can the U.S. truly adapt its system without facing a major crisis first? We'd love to hear what